Once you hit 70, life doesn't suddenly stop, but it definitely changes, whether you like it or not in loud, dramatic ways, but in quiet, undeniable shifts that reshape how you see the world. Your body and yourself. First, your body starts setting new rules. You may wake up with aches that weren't there before, need more time to recover, or notice your energy doesn't last all day. This isn't weakness, it's biology. At 70, your body demands respect. It asks you to slow down, listen closely, and care more intentionally than ever before. Second, time begins to feel different. Years seem to pass faster, while moments feel more precious. You stop rushing through conversations and start valuing simple things: a calm morning, a familiar voice, a peaceful evening. You realize time isn't something to spend carelessly anymore. It's something to protect. Third, your tolerance for nonsense disappears. You no longer feel obligated to please everyone, explain yourself, or engage in drama. Opinions that once bothered you lose their power. You become more selective with people, commitments, and even thoughts. Peace starts to matter more than approval. Fourth, relationships change. Some people drift away, sometimes through distance, sometimes through loss. At the same time, the connections that remain grow deeper. You appreciate honesty, loyalty, and presence over numbers. Love becomes quieter, but stronger. Finally, reflection becomes unavoidable. You think about the life you lived, the choices you made, the lessons you learned. Regrets may surface, but so does wisdom. You understand that perfection was never the goal, living fully was. Hitting 70 isn't about decline, it's about clarity. Life strips away what doesn't matter and leaves you with what truly does. And that, whether you like it or not, is one of the most powerful transformations of all. After the age of 70, your body begins to speak more clearly than it ever has before, and ignoring it is no longer an option. Movements that once felt automatic now require intention. You may notice stiffness in the morning, slower reflexes, or fatigue that arrives sooner than expected. These changes are not sudden failures, they are signals. Your body is reminding you that it has carried you through decades of life, and now deserves patience and respect in return. Recovery takes longer at this stage of life. A poor night's sleep, a long walk, or even emotional stress can linger for days instead of hours. This doesn't mean you are becoming weak, it means your body's repair systems are working at a different pace. Rest is no longer laziness, it is a necessary form of maintenance. Learning when to pause becomes just as important as knowing when to push forward. Nutrition also plays a larger role than ever before. Heavy, careless eating that once caused little harm can now affect digestion, energy levels, and overall comfort. Your body asks for simpler, cleaner fuel foods that nourish rather than burden. Hydration becomes essential. Joints crave movement, and muscles need gentle but consistent use to remain strong. Small daily habits begin to matter more than occasional big efforts. Pain, when it appears, carries meaning. At 70, discomfort is often a message rather than an inconvenience. It may be asking for better posture, more movement, less strain, or medical attention. Listening early can prevent bigger problems later. Respecting pain does not mean surrendering to it, it means responding wisely. Perhaps most importantly, your relationship with your body changes emotionally. You may grieve the strength or speed you once had, but you also gain a deeper appreciation for what still works. Your body has survived illness, stress, joy, loss, and countless memories. Treating it with kindness through rest, gentle activity, regular checkups, and self-compassion becomes an act of gratitude. At this age, caring for your body is no longer about chasing youth. It is about preserving independence, dignity, and quality of life. When you respect your body after 70, it continues to support you in the ways that matter most. After the age of 70, the way you experience time quietly but profoundly changes. Days may still be full, but you seem to pass at an unsettling speed. Birthdays come faster, seasons shift quicker, and you sometimes wonder how another year slipped by so easily. This isn't imagination, it's perspective. When you've already lived many decades, each new year becomes a smaller piece of the whole, and your mind registers it differently. At the same time, individual moments begin to feel more meaningful. You notice the warmth of morning sunlight, the comfort of familiar routines, and the value of calm conversations. You are less obsessed with what's next and more aware of what's happening now. Time stops being something to fill and starts becoming something to appreciate. You also become more selective about how you spend your hours. Long, exhausting obligations lose their appeal. Waiting in unnecessary lines, engaging in pointless arguments, or committing to things that bring no joy starts to feel like a waste you can't afford. At 70, you understand that time is no longer unlimited, and that realization brings clarity, not fear. Memories take on a new role. The past feels closer, richer, and more vivid. You replay important chapters of your life not to dwell, but to understand. You see patterns, lessons, and meaning that were invisible when you were younger. And rushing forward, reflection becomes a quiet companion, helping you make peace with what was and gratitude for what is. Time also changes how you view goals. You stop measuring life by distant achievements and start valuing daily contentment. A good day matters more than a big plan. Consistency feels more important than speed. You learn that a slow, peaceful life can be deeply fulfilling. Perhaps most importantly, time teaches you presence. You realize that being fully there with a loved one, a thought, or even yourself is more valuable than multitasking through life. At 70, time becomes precious not because there is less of it, but because you finally understand its true worth. After the age of 70, something quietly powerful happens. You lose the patience for unnecessary drama, arguments that once pulled you in now feel exhausting. Opinions that used to bother you no longer have the same grip. It's not that you stop caring, it's that you start caring about the right things. Peace begins to matter more than proving a point. You realize that many conflicts are fueled by ego, insecurity, or the need for control, and none of those are worth your limited energy. At this stage of life, emotional energy becomes just as valuable as physical strength. You simply don't want to waste it on gossip, negativity, or endless complaints. Silence often feels healthier than speaking, and distance can be kinder than confrontation. You also stop explaining yourself. The urge to justify your choices, lifestyle, or beliefs fades. You understand who you are and what works for you. If someone disagrees or disapproves, it no longer feels like a personal threat. You accept that not everyone will understand you, and that's perfectly fine. Boundaries become clearer and firmer. You say no without guilt and walk away without resentment. You choose conversations that uplift you and avoid environments that drain you. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect earned through years of experience. You've learned that protecting your peace is a responsibility, not a luxury. Another change is emotional maturity. You recognize patterns in people and situations quickly. You know when an argument will go nowhere and when silence is the wiser choice. You stop reacting and start responding. Calm replaces chaos, and perspective replaces impulse. Letting go of drama also brings freedom. Without constant emotional noise, your mind feels lighter. You have more space for joy, reflection, creativity, and genuine connection. Life feels simpler, not because problems disappear, but because you no longer invite unnecessary ones. By 70, drama loses its appeal because you've seen enough of it to know the cost. What remains is a deep appreciation for calm, honesty, and meaningful moments, and that is a piece worth protecting. After the age of 70, relationships naturally begin to change. Not because you stop caring about people, but because you start valuing connection in a deeper, more honest way. Over time, some relationships fade quietly. Friends move away, life circumstances shift, and sadly, loss becomes part of reality. These changes can feel painful, but they also bring clarity about what truly matters in human connection. You begin to notice that you no longer need a large circle to feel fulfilled. The desire to constantly socialize or keep up appearances fades. Instead, you treasure a few meaningful relationships where you can be fully yourself without pretending, impressing, or explaining. Quality replaces quantity, and depth replaces noise. Conversations change too. Small talk feels less satisfying, while sincere discussions become more valuable. You appreciate people who listen, who show up consistently, and who understand silence. As much as words, being emotionally safe with someone becomes far more important than being entertained. A shared cup of tea, a quiet walk, or a familiar voice can feel richer than any crowded gathering. At this stage of life, relationships are built more on trust than excitement. You've learned through experience who stays and who leaves, who supports you in difficult times and who disappears. This wisdom makes you selective, not bitter. You no longer chase connection. You allow it to grow naturally. Family bonds often take on new meaning. You may feel a strong urge to mend old misunderstandings or express feelings that were once left unsaid. At the same time, you also accept that not every relationship can be fixed. Acceptance becomes part of emotional peace. There is also a growing comfort in solitude. Being alone no longer means being lonely. You enjoy your own company and don't rely on others to fill emotional gaps. This independence makes your relationships healthier, because they are based on choice rather than need. Perhaps most importantly, love feels calmer. It's less about intensity and more about presence. You value reliability, kindness, and understanding. When someone remains in your life after 70, it's because the connection has proven its strength over time. In this way, relationships after 70 may be fewer, but they are richer, truer, and more meaningful than ever before. After the age of 70, reflection becomes a natural and unavoidable part of life. You find yourself looking back more often, not out of regret, but out of understanding. Memories surface quietly, moments of joy, mistakes, sacrifices, victories, and losses. What once felt confusing or painful begins to make sense through the lens of experience. Life slows down just enough to allow meaning to rise. You start to see your past with more kindness. Choices you once judged harshly are now viewed with compassion. You recognize that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. This self-forgiveness brings peace. Instead of wishing for a different life, you begin to accept the one you lived as complete and human. Reflection also sharpens wisdom. You notice patterns, what truly mattered and what never did. The things you once chased, like status or approval, lose their shine. In their place, values like integrity, health, relationships, and inner peace stand out clearly. You understand that happiness was never found in rushing, but in being present. There is also a deeper awareness of life's fragility. You become more honest about mortality, not with fear, but with realism. This awareness doesn't darken life, it brightens it. You become more intentional with your words, more generous with forgiveness, and more grateful for ordinary days. Every morning feels like a quiet gift. Reflection often brings a desire to pass something on. You may feel a stronger urge to share stories, lessons, or guidance with younger generations, not to lecture, but to help them avoid unnecessary pain. Your experiences become a source of value, not just memory. You also learn to let go old grudges, unresolved anger, and long-held disappointments begin to feel heavy and unnecessary. Releasing them brings emotional freedom. You realize peace is not found by fixing the past, but by making peace with it. By 70, reflection transforms into wisdom because it is no longer rushed or defensive. It is honest, gentle, and clear. You understand that life was never about perfection, it was about growth, and with that understanding comes a calm confidence that only time can give. Asterisk.